Hello, beautiful, divine, and powerful beings. My name is Hal Weinschenk, and this is Spiritual Power Hour. Today's topic is finding calm in times of chaos. And nothing could be more appropriate than what is happening right now during 2020 in times of COVID. How do you stay calm in the middle of all of this, what seems to be chaos? It's the illusion of chaos around us. So we're going to discuss this a little bit. Let me tell you about 30 seconds about who I am. I'm a metaphysical teacher, spiritual counselor. I've been studying these topics for about 30 years now. I'm also a certified hypnotherapist with over 2,000 hours under my belt. Been through about 250 past life regressions as well as some forward life regressions. I'm a certified life coach, a hypnotherapist, as I've said before, and an intuitive empath. And the way I teach is from both a practical and psychological perspective, although the position I always take is one of spirituality. And so that's mostly what we're going to be hearing tonight. I've been on sabbatical for several years now, but I finally decided to come back out and serve again. And with everything going on right now, we have reached a peak in the polarization of our consciousness, meaning two polar opposites, two extremes, the yin, the yang, the male, the female, the light, and the dark. And this has reached a peak in both consciousness and beliefs. And so it's very much needed right now to stay as calm and centered as possible. And I'm going to talk about some ways to do that. And we'll practice, we'll have some practice exercises as well. Everything here on planet Earth, it happens on the basis of need. Always remember that. There's nothing that's an accident, and everything happens with divine timing, but it's always on the basis of need, meaning we have discoveries or uncoveries at specific times and specific places that people will say, wow, you know, that artifact or that shipwreck never appeared before this, and yet it comes up now. The same with inventions and any other type of discovery. And so anyway, the need I am feeling right now is to teach this way of being calm, being centered in what appears like appears to be a very chaotic world. But again, I'll talk about this, that the outside is an illusion. The outside is just a projection of the consciousness that's occurring right now, and your perception of this consciousness, your perception of this reality is what determines your world. At the time of this recording, there's a worldwide pandemic, and there's a very divisive political atmosphere, especially here in the United States, but it's occurring, the same level of consciousness is occurring across the globe. And so it's very important to have a perspective and to be able to step back and be able to see this from a more macro standpoint. From the consciousness standpoint, the duality here that's on Gaia, it's being tested. Many people are feeling one extreme or another. It's sort of the dark night of the soul, but for the planet as a whole. The best antidote for chaos in any circumstance is order. Meaning those that are in a shipwreck or in a natural disaster or in a fire or anything like that. Those that survive are the ones that are the calmest. Those that survive ahead of time have a plan. And so again, the best way to survive chaos, the best way to get through chaos is with order. And being calm is the wisest thing to do in times of what appear to be chaotic. So I'm going to keep this talk short, perhaps less than 40 minutes or so, and then I'll do a future talk in which we'll do some questions and answers, and then I plan to do future spiritual power hours over different various topics. I'm going to more or less come up with some for each, probably do it weekly on my podcast. And then I'll have a live group class as well, and we can talk about if you want to attend that. And then please stay till the end. I do have a free gift for everyone, so please go ahead and stick around until the end of this talk. What I want to discuss today is how to maintain calm and centered, even when your world appears to be chaotic. And the best way to do this is by integrating the three elements, and many of you have heard of this before, the mind, the body, and the spirit. And I'll explain these a little bit further. So let's get started, okay? So let's first discuss the mind. From a mind aspect, you're, first of all, a divine and sovereign being we're made up of an electrical, magnetic, and chemical properties. We're much more expansive, much more than the illusion or delusion that we're taught in school and by our parents and by society. We're a magnificent, expansive creature, basically a soul being that's pure energy, that has no time and space, and that's multidimensional. We're basically soul beings that we're inhabiting a corporeal body, meaning a physical body, but we're experiencing this denseness here on the earth plane to learn, to expand, and to grow. That's the only purpose for being here in this existence. The only goal here on planet Earth is to explore, expand, learn, and go through these experiences in a denseness. However, the way we're navigating this is by the one thing that this planet has that no other planet has, which is choice. And we're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about that, how choices is what's determining your absolute experience that you experience that others may not. And we're also, to get into it a little further, we're coming into an age of Aquarius, which is a transmuting or an ascending from a third density being or vibration. Some will say third density, some will call it a vibration, some will call it a density. It's more or less the same thing. It's your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, actions determines your vibration and your density. And so the model that was used back in the early 90s when I was first studying this was we're going from 3D and we're expanding and ascending. And today they put these numbers on it because the left brain loves to categorize and put things into little boxes. So the categories that we use in today's spirituality is we talk about things being 3D, 4D, and then 5D and beyond. Excuse me. So part of these densities corresponds with each chakra. If you look at the figure behind me, many of you have heard of what chakras are, this being the first chakra, the base chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and then the crown chakra. There are other chakras beyond that. So each of the densities corresponds to each chakra. So this being the first density, the second density, these two being mostly about primitive survival, basic necessities, sexuality, propagation of the species, that sort of thing. And so think of when I mentioned 3D, 4D, and 5D, these are the properties that I'm talking about, and they correspond to the vibration of each chakra. And I'll do a whole other class in chakras. That could take easily several hours just to discuss that. The thing is, we change our vibration by managing our thoughts and feelings primarily. Beliefs are a term that's used often, but beliefs are really just a thought that you keep thinking over and over again habitually. So when you say, I believe in blank, you're basically saying, I believe and I believe and I believe, which is the same as saying, I think and think and think and think about that thing, and therefore I believe it. And this is what determines your vibration. It's very, very simple here. Basically, your thoughts, your feelings are what's determining the place that you vibrate at. And we, as human beings being human here in the experience of this now place we call Earth, we go through the different densities throughout the day. You may wake up in the morning in 3D and say, oh my gosh, I just got to get some food in me, I'm starving. And then you may jump up to 5D and feel all loving and all powerful. And I'll get into further explanations in another class about which the definition of each of these densities. And so we vibrate through the densities. The goal, of course, is to be higher up in the densities, 5D or higher. If you believe in the galactic beings or any sort of aliens or ETs, they all operate at 5D and above. We here on planet Earth are mostly operating in 3D, barely, many of us barely operating in 4D. And there's a very rare number of people who are truly in 5D. Then they're normally ascending if they're operating most of the time in 5D. So it's a mixture. It's our thoughts and feelings determines the vibration. That's mixed with our choices and our actions or behaviors, and that determines our experience. Our perspective of our experience is what we see as our life, you know, our experience. So a lot of the ancient, the ancient gurus, the mystics, the monks, they all spoke of the same traditional methods used to quiet the mind and balance your feelings or emotions. The reason they taught all these ancient traditions, and they're all the same, I've studied all of them, they all have a common theme. That's to quiet the mind and not really still the heart, but to manage the heart, meaning manage your feelings. And there is a difference between feelings and emotions. Emotions is what you emote out. Feelings is what comes to you. And so people will say, well, I woke up feeling angry. You didn't wake up feeling angry. You absorbed or took in from the collective unconscious feelings of anger, and then you thought about it more, and then you thought about it more, and then you thought about it more, and that builds up those feelings. Feelings are also the sensing mechanism. So we have the five senses, touch, smell, taste, etc. But then we also have the psychic senses, the change sense or need to change, things like that. There are other senses that are more transpersonal or beyond the physical body. And that's basically all we do here. Life is really, really simple. And so the ultimate goal is to be joyous and therefore calm. When you're calm, you experience nothing but joy. And to me, they're basically cousins. Joy and calm, to me at least, mean the same thing. So the main focus to being calm is staying centered or true in who you describe as yourself. So if I say, okay, I am Hal, I am Hal, I am Hal, that's me. If I'm truly in those thoughts and truly in those feelings, I will feel that at all times, and I'm centered in that space. The way you become uncentered is to bring in all these outside influences, these outside thoughts, people in your life, your job, your husband, your wife, your partner, etc., your children, and all these outside things then change your thinking, change your feelings, therefore change your vibration, and change your state of calm. This changes your state of being centered. And I'm going to basically teach in this class a technique that takes literally 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, and it's a meditation on calming, and you can use this to nurture yourself and for feeling grounded. So before we get into this, let me ask a question. Do you feel like you are in control of your life, or that life controls you? And are you responsible and in charge of your life, or do you feel out of control? And lastly, do you feel like life is fated to be a certain way or not? And I'm asking these for a reason. Life is what it is. Some are lucky and some are not. Do you feel that? All right. So I ask these questions because in psychology they have a term called your locus of control. Locus of control is how you feel about how you are either in control or not in control in your life. And there's two types. There's an internal locus of control and an external locus of control. An external locus of control, it supports the belief that you have that you're basically helpless, that you have no blame and you're not in control of your success or your failure. Life just sort of happens to you. Whereas a person with an internal locus of control, they basically attribute their successes and their failures to their own efforts. They take responsibility for their lives. And of course, there's a mixture. Not everybody is purely internal or purely external. So locus of control, it's where people believe that they have control over their own lives, as opposed to an external force having control over their lives. And there's a big difference between these two ways of perspecting, it's two ways of sensing your world. And if you really sit with this, and if you really ask yourself that question, which way do you more or less perceive your world? Do you perceive it as being out of control, out of your hands, or that you have the ultimate responsibility? From a spiritual perspective, the ideal is you're a sovereign being. You're fully empowered as an individual. And the way that a sovereign being feels is they are the creator. They are the designer of their lives, which would be, an individual that has very strong feelings that they are the masters of their own ships. So secondly, do you respond or do you react to life? And I ask these questions deliberately because there is a difference. And again, this is, having to do with chaos and dealing with chaos or perceptions of chaos. So if you're reacting to life, that's more of like a knee-jerk reaction to any sort of external events or people coming into your life or things that people say to you, that sort of thing. It's very fearful. It's a defensive place to be. And people who respond to life basically are very deliberate. They feel calm. They feel confident, and they really just respond to what happens in their life. There is not this jerk reaction to life. People who often will go through their day that way, just responding to, oh, that happened, oh, my boss yelled at me, oh, my kids are being cranky, etc. And instead of responding to that event, to that series of thoughts, those series of feelings, they're doing more of a reaction, like they've touched a hot pot or something like that. And a simple example of responding versus reacting to life, again, it's being empowered. It means not to react to life, but to simply respond to that which is outside yourself. In other words, what is outside of yourself is only a reflection of you. And so if what's outside of yourself, and this is a hard concept to grasp, and a lot of people won't see it that way. A lot of people perhaps watching this see their lives as, oh, this is life and this happens to me. But life is very deliberate. You are the creator of your life. And so the only choice, if you take that position, is you're just responding to what life is mirroring back to you. And if life is mirroring those things back to you, there is no reaction, because things are not happening to you, you are happening to it. And this includes everything. This includes politics, your job, even your health. Health is a big one, and health with the pandemic going on right now, health is a huge one that people feel very out of control with. And again, if you take the position of you are control of your life, you are the creator of your life, then you can only respond to it and stay in a much more calm and centered place. So really, truly, there's nothing outside of yourself that defines you. Only you define you. Okay. So here's some tricks and some tips to manage your mind and your thinking. A couple of things I recommend. First of all, don't get into what I've always taught as being the drama of life. Okay. And this again goes back to responding or reacting. If you're watching the daily news and there's all these reports about something going on, if it's not a virus, then it's a fire, or it's some natural disaster, or it's the economy, etc. And we get this, especially today, we get this information overload from the internet and social media and the television. Two things I recommend. First of all, watch half as much television as you watch now, or don't watch at all. Because this affects your thinking and affects your feelings. And you may say, well, I want to stay informed. That's fine. Go and look up perhaps some things on an internet site, or just watch, maybe 30 minutes of news just so you get the main points of what's going on, and then shut it off. And this way you're not getting into the drama that is life. It's the same with people who are interacting with you. If you're putting yourself into a position of just reacting to what they're doing, again, you're not being a sovereign being, you're just reacting. And so again, don't get into this drama of life. See life as being a reflection coming back to you of what you're putting out to it. Okay. The second main point I would like to bring up is about perspective, and this is a tough one. And I've been practicing this literally since I would say high school. I started getting into this. The first book, spiritual book I ever read was the I Ching, and that book was not necessarily about perspective, but it did help me to kind of step back. The combination of that and having a Freudian psychoanalyst father who always taught me to think about what you're thinking about. And so when I have things happen to me in my life, I'm stepping back. And then when I get a bigger picture of that, and I step back again. This is what perspective is. It's like with an artist, you know, the old joke where they put their thumb up and they look out of one eye and they're looking at the painting that they're painting. If you're right up against it, then your perspective is a little blind because you can only see so much versus stepping back, and stepping back, you can see the bigger picture. So you don't become so fixated on it, and you don't become so fixated on your external world and wind up obsessing about what's going on inside of your head. So again, the reacting, responding mechanism, which one are you doing? So again, it's about managing your thoughts, and most of life can be really simple if you manage your thoughts and your feelings.